I prefer a great X-Men movie. I said a great X-Men movie. Perfection. Hey guys, this is Frozen Things Studios here, and welcome back to another movie review. And today, I am going to be doing a review on X-Men First Class. So, X-Men First Class is the fifth X-Men film to release, and is the first installment of a new era of X-Men, which is a prequel series featuring the young versions of iconic X-Men characters we knew, and it came out in the year 2011, and is directed by Matthew Vaughn, the same director as the Kingsman franchise, Kick-Ass, Layer Cake, Argyle, Stardust, and other films like those. And it stars James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Kevin Bacon, Rose Byrne. Is that how you pronounce your last name? I don't think so, but it's just hard. Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, Lucas Till, January Jones, Jason Fleming, Caleb Landry Jones, Zoe Kravitz, Alex Gonzalez, etc. And so the film tells a story taking place way before the X-Men, way before the events of the original X-Men, and it's about how a young Charles and Eric were once friends and allies who worked together to establish the X-Men, a group of good mutants who are willing to save humanity. And their first mission is to take down shit, Sebastian Shaw. Sorry, I almost botched his name, but Sebastian Shaw, who wants to start a World War III, and they're accompanied by CIA agent Moira McTaggart, who pretty much gave Charles this mission to prevent evil mutants, led by Sebastian Shaw, to stop World War III. And so both Charles and Eric, they both find each other in the middle of the mission. They both discover each other as they both have the ability to read minds, and Charles saves Eric. Charles helps Eric, which is what made them friends, and they both work together to search for mutants and recruit them into the team. And so the X-Men team is formed now, and they are now the team is formed, and they must work together to stop Sebastian Shaw from preventing World War III. However, both Charles and Eric have different views of humanity. Well, Charles just wants to stop the war itself and not destroy humanity. Eric believes that that the villains should be killed for their actions, and so their differences is what led them to become enemies, and a certain betrayal that happens between the two during the final battle. So now yes, I do think the X-Men original trilogy is good overall. Especially with the first two films, and especially X2 in general. I wouldn't say I love the original trilogy, but I would say I do acknowledge how iconic these characters are. I do acknowledge how iconic Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are as Charles and Magneto, and especially with casts like Halle Berry as Storm, Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, and especially Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Yeah, but thanks to X-Men: The Last Stand, that movie, X-Men: The Last Stand, and especially that god awful disaster that is X-Men Origins Wolverine, the X-Men franchise started to fumble. Yeah, because of how underwhelming X-Men: The Last Stand was, and also how disastrous X-Men Origins Wolverine are. Yeah, Origins Wolverine really brought the franchise down to a new low, and that film was so hated that Needed to find a way to make X-Men to make your X-Men great again, to great again, to bring back this franchise. Now, yeah, in case you guys aren't aware, I want to talk about this in this review. There are times when, no, wait, no, my bad. Fox was originally going to develop more X-Men origin films with different characters, like similar to Wolverine, where they explore the origin story of each character. And it was supposed to be done with Magneto after Wolverine, yeah, which was called, well, X-Men Origins Magneto, which would have explored the origin story of Magneto and pretty much his time during the Cold War events, and how he was how he witnessed his family's death, and desperately wanted revenge. So his anger is his sadness and anger is what drove him to become the villain he is today. And yeah, that would have made an amazing prequel, an amazing story, something that I would actually like. But unfortunately, due to the failure of X-Men Origins Wolverine and the writer's strike that happened in 2007 to 2008, which is apparently even worse than the strike we had last year, for sure, X-Men Origins Magneto got cancelled, and Fox canceled any other future plans of X-Men Origins. I mean, I bet we could have even had an X-Men Origins Charles movie, an X-Men Origins Mystique movie, an X-Men Origins Star movie. I mean, that was like the plan moving forward after the last stand, just making these origin films of each X-Men member. Maybe a Jean Grey origin movie would have been it would have been a thing too. But what Fox decided to do is make a prequel about how the X-Men was formed, and how Charles and Magneto have become enemies. And yeah, I can assume at the time, prior to this movie's release, when we only had the original films plus Origins Wolverine, I'm sure nobody would have been excited for this film. I can imagine people are going to be like, oh, why do we need another X-Men prequel? Yeah, another X-Men film. Like, X-Men is dead. Just stop trying to bring it back. This is going to suck. And they could have even complained. They could have complained even more about the fact that they're replacing these actors, saying that, oh, no one can replace Patrick Stewart as Professor X and Ian McKellen as Magneto. You're making a big mistake here, Fox. Why are you recasting them? No one can do better than them. And I also could have been skeptical about the film. Maybe not like that level of like the skeptical, but I still have been kind of worried about it going in. Like, I wouldn't have been anticipating this movie, but little did anyone know that First Class would turn out this way. That this movie would be amazing, that it would not only be the return to form for the X-Men, but would even be considered the best X-Men movie at its time. And yeah, even the putting the original trilogy to shame, even X2. But that's what we got with X-Men First Class, and man, I absolutely love this movie. It is so good. This movie is hands down one of the best prequels ever made. The more I rewatch this movie, the more it just grows and grows on me, and it just continues to get better and better the more I revisit this. I'm gonna say this right now. This is in my top 3 favorite. This is a top 3 X-Men movie. Yeah, this is like in my top 3. If you saw my original X-Men ranking list I had a few years ago, I put both Deadpool movies above this one. But now I think both. Now I will say I now prefer this over the Deadpool movies. Yeah, this movie's only competitors are. This movie's only competitor is Days of Future Past. Yeah, I don't even know which one of these is better. Like, I feel like maybe this might, and I might end up not preferring this over Days of Future Past. But then again, I still have to rewatch Days of Future Past. I'm not gonna be too quick in saying this is better than Days of Future Past. I have to see how Days of Future Past will go on rewatch before I can just determine which one's better. But right now, yeah, both First Class and Days of Future Past have competition. And yes, although it's still no competition about Logan being the best X-Men movie because it is the best X-Men movie. And honestly, when it comes to 2011 movies, I'd say this is this is now my third favorite movie 2011. That's right behind Deathly Hallows Part 2 and Hugo. I mean, and pretty obviously this is the best superhero 2011. I mean, yeah, 2010, 2011 were just horrible. We're not very good years for superhero movies for the comic book genre. I mean, 2010 2010. I mean, 2010 was one of those years where a superhero movie was saved thanks to the hands of Matthew Vaughn with Kick-Ass and what other comic book films have we got in 2010? Iron Man 2, Jonah Hex, bleh, bleh. Honestly, if it counts Scott Pilgrim as a comic book movie, I think it is. I think Scott Pilgrim would be the best comic book movie 2010, but man, just Matthew Vaughn just directing an awesome superhero movie 2010. I think Kick-Ass is the best superhero movie 2010. Since Scott Pilgrim is technically not a superhero movie, yeah, and 2011 is even worse with superhero movies. I mean, what other superhero movies can you think of that can earn the title of the best superhero movie 2011? Green Lantern? You serious? Yeah, there's. I can't think of anything else. I mean, Green Hornet, I guess. I actually think that Green Hornet was a guilty pleasure, but it ain't First Class, y'all. First Class just destroyed anything in the comic book genre in 2011. So yeah, and not only was this film a breath of fresh air and breath of fresh air to the franchise and would have been considered the best X-Men film at its time in comparison to the previous four X-Men movies that came before, but this would have been the first X-Men movie that I consider flawless because yes, trust me guys, I think this movie is flawless in my opinion. Yeah, I know people do have flaws with this movie, criticism with this movie, but honestly, I don't see those criticisms at all. I think this is just a flawless movie. Now, honestly, I will say this though. I think an X-Men Origins Magneto movie would have been more necessary than a Wolverine prequel film because let's be real here, Origins Wolverine, that idea wouldn't have anything to offer. The only reason it's made is because it's just to cash in on Wolverine's character since he's just so popular. Even though his everything to know about his character and backstories was already explained in X2, so there is no need for a backstory and Origins Wolverine was just an obvious cash grab because they had no idea what to do with him other than just the same story we already heard in X2, the same backstory where William Stryker experimented on Wolverine and yada yada. That's why X-Men Origins Wolverine failed because it's so safe and because of how safe and corporate it is, and it's just made to capitalize on the Wolverine name and try way too hard to give him fame, but actually no. But with Magneto, there is so much to offer in a solo prequel film we didn't hear much about Magneto's backstory, and he had a much bigger backstory than Wolverine. Wolverine was just experimenting with other stuff, but Magneto had a childhood where he was was under control of the Nazis, and he witnessed his mother's killing, and so Magneto vowed revenge. His life was just revenge, and then he came to realize that humanity sucks in his point of view, and so he wants to go out of his way to destroy humanity. Although I'm not sure if I would agree with the decision of having Ian McKellen reprise his role as Magneto and then just de-aging him to 20. Yeah, that would have been a bad idea. But story-wise, it's a great idea. And you can tell they incorporated a lot of plot elements from X-Men Origins Magneto into this one, and I love it. They really went hard on Magneto's character here, especially with how his childhood trauma has caused him anger and how he let his anger decide his fate. Which him becoming a villain is what what his childhood trauma led him to become. And yeah, this movie has such a great message to not let your anger define who you are, to not let your past define who you are. And yeah, making an X-Men prequel about how Charles and Eric became partners, formed a team together, and then became enemies at the end was such a smart idea for a prequel to the X-Men films, and it paid off so well. I was so hooked with this film from start to finish because of how great the idea is. The film gives a very valid reason on why Magneto decided to turn into the dark and start a war with the humans. You really feel sympathy for him and his actions and why he did what he did. And he when he discovered that humans were the main enemy, and so he went out of his way to destroy humans when the humans pretty much tried to shoot them. And Eric was also trying a little way too hard to be a hero, which is a consequential move for Magneto to go that direction, which is why Magneto ended up that way. And the banter between Charles and Eric were so good. Yeah, because of how they're both just good friends. You really feel the chemistry them just working together, and also both of them just in that scene where they were both pretty much arguing over the fate of humanity, where Charles said that that they should only stop the conflict and not this go as far as destroying any humans. But Eric is like, no, I think humanity should die because of how evil they are. Yeah, Magneto is like one of those villain arcs. Has one of those villain arcs where he sees himself as a hero for what he's doing, even if his actions are not agreeable, which makes Magneto an anti-hero. And I love anti-hero stories if they're done right. Magneto is a perfect example of anti-heroes done right. And like what I said in my review of the first X-Men film, I view these X-Men films as the Star Wars of the superhero genre, where the mutants can either be good or bad sides, and they rapidly change. Like, for example, in X2, Magneto turned into the good side. Like he had no choice but to work with his team, and he chose to turn into the light and redeem himself, which his redemption arc was ruined in the last stand. Blah. In this film, however, we had good characters turn into the dark side, yeah, and switch into the bad side. Particularly with Angel Salvador's character, played by Zoe Kravitz, who was one of the crews of the X-Men, but then actually decided to fall for Sebastian Shaw's temptation and join his side, and betraying everyone there. That just shows how what the X Men really is like, what mutants are like, and yeah, what makes this film even better than it already is the style. This is all thanks to Matthew Vaughn's direction, and yeah, Matthew Vaughn, he has one of the best styles for a director, and I always love his fast paced and quirky style. And X Men First Class is no exception to that. Having this movie take place during the Cold War makes this film a lot more fun because a whole more action than your typical X-Men film will be added. And damn, the action scenes are just so fun. Whether it'll be the night submarine scene when Charles and Eric meet for the first time, to the White House, to a small fight at Emma Frost's house, to the big fight at Cuba at the end. Yeah, the action scenes just rule. I'm sure there are actually more than I thought, but oh well. And the entire movie itself is just so fun, and there's never a scene where I felt like it was slow. The new team that they formed really works well, especially in comparison to the old team, and I really dug the chemistry a lot. I feel like maybe people would think that they won't like this new team because of how just used they are to the old team, that they think oh, this new team is nothing like the old team, but it just works so well. Every single one of them, even though they don't have a lot of appearances in these X-Men films, really have great chemistry. Just And also, I love the chemistry, especially like when they both just hang out together. Just seeing them hang out, it really felt. I really felt the vibe, felt some vibes to that. And dare I say, I prefer the castings of the young versions of the iconic X Men characters than their original counterparts. Yeah, particularly with two of the most important X Men characters. Well, unless if you count Wolverine as one of the two, but I'm talking about Charles and Magneto. I prefer James McAvoy as Charles over Patrick Stewart, and I especially prefer Michael Fassbender as Magneto over Ian McKellen. In these prequel films, I think Magneto is the better character than Charles, in my opinion. Nicholas Hoult is a better actor for Beast than Kelsey Grammer, and Jennifer Lawrence is certainly way better than Rebecca Romijn as Mystica. And I defend Jennifer Lawrence in these films, minus Dark Phoenix. Yeah, sure, I would agree that she sucked in Dark Phoenix. She was just phoning in her acting in phoning it in. But in the previous films, in the prequel trilogy, this Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, I like the Jennifer Lawrence performance, and I think she does not deserve any of the hate at all. Just because you hated her in Dark Phoenix, that doesn't mean you should just look back at her in the other films and just decide to hate on her just because of Dark Phoenix. It's freaking Dark Phoenix. That movie shouldn't even be canon. I'm sorry. And I also defend the villains in this one, as I think that they're vastly underrated and deserve more credit. Emma Frost is underrated, and I don't think January Jones gave a bad performance at all. I don't get why people say that. And man, Sebastian Shaw rules. He is one of the best X Men villains alongside Magneto. Yeah, Kevin Bacon gave a really interesting performance as Sebastian Shaw, and I never, I never think I would. I never thought I would see Sebastian Shaw play. No, I mean Kevin Bacon play a villain like this, because I thought Kevin Bacon was mainly known for his fun and upbeat comedy movies, like a bunch of these music movies, hangout movies like that. But Kevin Bacon as a villain, man, he was so good. And I love how manipulative Sebastian Shaw was. I mean, he's like so good at manipulating people, and he literally turned certain characters into the dark. I mean, he literally drove Angel to join his side just over staring at her, which shows how manipulative he can be. And he even did the same to Eric, where he just convinced Eric about how evil humanity is, and he literally brainwashed Magneto to make the decision to turn evil, which is, I think, is a great idea to take this character. I also like his henchmen a lot, especially Angel Salvador. Man, Zoe Kravitz is Angel. She is so hot in this movie. Especially when we meet her for the first time at a strip club. Oh man, she is so sexy. And honestly, I must say this: she is my favorite Zoe Kravitz performance. Yes, over Catwoman. I know I'm gonna get hate for that, but I don't care. And yeah, this film also has some of my X-Men crushes are in this film. Like Angel was just mentioned, and also Moira McTaggart. Yeah, Moira is another one of my favorite characters in this film. I mean, I'm really happy that this wasn't the only film she appeared in. She also appeared in Apocalypse, but this was the better film with her in it, easily. Even though I do defend Apocalypse. She's definitely Rose Byrne's best performance. I mean, can't believe she went from these X-Men films to Peter Rabbit. What a poor shame. Poor shame. And also, this movie has a meme too, which is basically what I referenced in the beginning of in my intro, where basically the meme is, I prefer the real Raven. I said the real Raven. Perfection. Yeah, that meme should be talked about more. And I need to talk about the Wolverine cameo. I need to talk about that Wolverine cameo because I love the way that cameo is, and a lot of people seem to really love that Wolverine cameo too. I'm sure you remember when Charles and Eric approached Wolverine, and Wolverine's like, "Go fuck yourself," and at the bar, and then Wolverine looks back at Charles and Eric and be like, oh, I think they really do need me. I think I should go there, without actually him saying it, which is a perfect way of showing, not telling. And how they handled handle that scene, yeah. If you actually think about it, if you actually watch this in Days of Future Past back to back, you can actually see that that Wolverine cameo is not just a fan service cameo, but rather it is a foreshadow of what's going to happen in Days of Future Past, where Wolverine would go back in time Wolverine would go back in time, to the time of Charles and Magneto's young selves, when the X-Men was just newly formed, and all the events of that film. Yeah, and then there was a scene in Days of Future Past where Charles would confront Wolverine when they meet again, and Charles like, I'm going to repeat the same words you told me in that bar. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, that is a great. That just shows how important that cameo was, and we need more cameos like this. Cameos that foreshadow the future of the franchise, and not just for the sake of fan service. I can't wait to see how Deadpool Wolverine would handle these cameos. And yeah, I hope that they're going to be more important to the plot, more essential to the future of the MCU than just fan service. Although if the cameos are just for the sake of fan service, I won't mind. Oh yeah, I was gonna mention the editing is amazing too, especially in the train scene where there's like constant split screens. Man, I love the editing, and this film is very fast paced too. I think this has the fastest pacing in any X-Men movie, which is what makes this movie so fun. And a 2 hours and 12-minute movie, it really flies by. Even though it felt shorter than the first X-Men and the last time, which are both like vastly shorter. Yeah. So overall, X-Men First Class is one of the absolute best X-Men movie, and yeah, this is a movie that is a breath of fresh air to the X-Men franchise, and it is a perfect origin story for the organization and lore of X-Men. I personally say that the X-Men prequel series are what the Star Wars prequel films, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones to be specific, should have been. This is the Phantom Menace. This movie in particular is Phantom Menace done right. I will always prefer this group over the original group. Don't care what anyone else says. Don't care what those nostalgia baiters say. So now before I give my rating of this film, I just want to talk about why exactly I'm doing this now. Because if you guys saw my plan of my X-Men reviews leading up to Deadpool Wolverine, I was going to take a bunch of breaks every time I finish reviewing a new era of X-Men. So basically, I was going to like only review the OG trilogy and then just take a break until June, and that June was where I was going to June is when I was initially planning to review the X-Men prequel films plus New Mutants. However, I personally couldn't help myself. I was like thinking about it, and I couldn't help but just want to just desperately talk about the prequel films because of how great they are. So I decided, you know what, I'll just go ahead and do the prequels and get them out of the way, since I just did review the original trilogy. As I do it. So as for my updated schedule and my X-Men reviews, yes, after Dark Phoenix, that's when I'll take a little break from my X-Men marathon, leading up to Deadpool Wolverine, and then I will review the New Mutants, as that will be the only X-Men film I will review in June, because June is going to be bombarded with content, with a bunch of content planned, and July will be the Wolverine and Deadpool solo films. The Wolverine trilogy first in the start of July, and then the Deadpool duology just right before the release of Deadpool Wolverine. So yeah, that's the plan. That's my new plan. So with that said, I'm going to give X-Men First Class 5 stars out of 5. Flawless movie. So for my review of X-Men First Class, this movie is certainly mutant and proud. Yeah, like what Mystique says. So yeah, what are your thoughts on X-Men for First Class? Would you agree with me that this is a top tier X-Men movie, or do you have a more unique take on the film? Do you have a different take on it? But seriously though, it's hard to not like this film. Comment down below, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for my review on X-Men Days of Future Past. So yeah, bye guys.